1 second, the live streaming. Hi, everyone. It's my great pleasure to host this alumni presentation today. Today, we invited 4 alum who graduated from our program and who's doing great in the industry. And they're going to share with their journey and mainly their company and what the new opening they have. So the first speaker is Paul. Where are you now, Paul?
Okay, I'm going to go now. All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Paul Sprouse. I work for Tyler Technologies. I'm a technical consultant on the West Coast. So I've been working with Tyler now for just over 6 months. I graduated from New York Data Science Academy in February. And let me get to the, I graduated them, in February of 2021. I have a bachelor's degree in finance. I have an MBA with IT management. I have worked for companies, Boeing, Achilles Systems Group. I was an independent consultant to Chase and other companies. I owned a robotics shop and taught robotics for many years while my kids were growing up. I also at that time worked for the school district. I taught STEM classes, and I owned a drone company called OneView. Really in my career, I started doing data before data science was a thing. So didn't know it was called data science at that time, but I started doing that in the late 90s, early 2000s. So my job when I got out, I kind of putzed around at first with my resume and probably spent 2 months fine tuning it and everything, and did lots of interviews. I was all over the place with interviews, and a lot of them would be like you would have to do testing. Some of them were just a Zoom call, that kind of thing. Really, the lesson I learned from that is have a story, tell a story, make sure your resume reflects the story, and go from there. You want to accept any interview you can, even if you have no desire to take the job, because every time it just is a little bit more experience and getting used to doing the interviewing process. So Tyler Tech, the company I finally ended up going to, here's a whole bunch of stuff. Basically, we do anything open government. So we do cities, counties, states, and federal. We also do some international. So if you go out there and you're searching for open data on government type activities, you will most likely hit one of our sites. If you Google open data, I think it's one of the first sites that opens up is like New York City open data site. And that'll be one of ours. If you see a page that looks like this, it is probably from Tyler. It used to be called Socrata. So at the bottom, there'd be a little Socrata symbol. And they were bought out by Tyler a few years back. And so they just started rebranding this year to everything being Tyler. We have so many divisions. We do police data. We do rescue data. I particularly do a lot of the city and county data. And so like a couple of weeks ago, I was in San Diego helping with the SDG goals, which are Sustainable Development Goals from the UN, and one of our projects will be presented to the UN later this year. Job hunting. I kind of went way out of order, didn't I? Oh well. Get your resume the way you want it. I think I touched on
I think your slides is not moving for some reason.
It's not on the not always easy, but
Paul, I think your slides is not moving. Right now, I'm still looking at the first page.
All right. Well, that explains a ton. So I just jumped through a bunch of those.
You can click on the screen shares. Did you see the sliding bar on the right corner? It's the one next to the minus sign.
Well, I was clicking on the wrong one. I have two opened apparently.
Oh, no worries. Please, you can switch to the right one.
Well, it's not doing that. So are you seeing Job Hunt right now?
I'm looking at the Taylor's presentation. It's a PPT.
Oh, man.
No worries. You can share screen and find it. It's a blue color background PPT.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out where it went.
Do you want to share screen again?
Yeah, I'm gonna redo that, I guess.
Yep.
Sorry for that. We use Teams, not Zoom. So none of that's changing. That is crazy.
Yeah, don't worry. Don't worry. We'll have time.
Is any of it changing?
I can see the slides, but I cannot see the cursor. Are you on the slides now?
I'm on the slides. What slide is showing?
The presentation have it seems like a duplication, so I can see number 1 attached to the presentation.
Interesting. I will end the slideshow and start over then. Wow, this is terrible.
Do you want to try share screen again and share your full screen? So whatever you're looking at will be bring up to the top.
Okay, there it is. Share screen. And I am just going to share this screen and drag everything to it then.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. I can see the whole screen.
Okay, good. All right, now I'm going to reload the
Thank
presentation.
you.
Okay, now are we seeing it?
That's right.
Okay.
Go for it.
All right. Well, I kind of jumped ahead all these, and where I was just talking was right here. And if you'd been in my room, you would have had the slides change. Everything would have been perfect, and you would have been happy, but you weren't. So, back to kind of getting the jobs, looking through it. It's not always easy, but you get better with practice. So my recommendation is always get your resume done first. Get it the way you want it, and really get a couple versions. So if you're applying for just a data science role, really put in your highlights of that. If you're applying for, a data analyst role, adjust it for that. So you want your resume and your cover letter and everything you present to kind of present a story about yourself. One of the things I found, and one of the reasons why Tyler liked me, was because in the projects I demonstrated and things I talked about, I always talked about a story and put it that way. I know New York's Data Science Academy likes to tell you in your blogs to not just focus on the data, but what is the data telling you? And that is so true in the industry, at least from my experience. Be ready to answer a lot of questions. They're going to ask you about projects and work experiences. And you want these thought of ahead of time, but not pre-canned, so that you can kind of change on the fly, because they will ask interrupting type questions and see how you handle that kind of response to them. So always be ready with them, but don't hone them too much. Be ready to kind of improvise as you go along. You're going to have some where you're doing testing. I had one interview where I had a SQL test, and it was something I've done hundreds of times. And I just had brain lock when I got to it, and you weren't allowed to use anything else. And it was just brutal trying to remember how to do. It was an aggregation type problem. And so really practice that, and practice being able to do it and talk at the same time. That's going to be a hard spot, but you have to do that in the industry. For me, I do that all the time with customers now, where I walk through code and I code and talk. And I found that was very difficult at first, but it's getting better. Embrace every interview, whether you get the job or not, or want the job or not. You're going to learn something from everyone. So take as many as you can, keep doing it. So just my job right now, a little bit about that. I'm with Tyler Tech. I'm in the Data and Insights division, and I'm part of the West team, which we have a West, East, and Federal team in our division. And so we do weekly sprints. So we're planning our week ahead every week. We have probably about 4 or 5 weekly meetings that kind of discuss what we're doing. If there are any blockers, do you need help? Work is a very big team. So all the TCs get together and have meetings. Then I work with project managers, customer service reps, and system engineers. and we kind of design the project from that, go over it, and communicate that way through Slack. So most of our team communication, we talk through Slack. We have everything, archived, so you can get all the back information. We have tons of internal documentations to tell you what you're doing and everything. So it's pretty good that way. Every day is different here. So like last week, I was working with San Diego. This week, I'm working with Stockton, getting some mapping projects out. And each project is different. Sometimes it's heavy SQL. I do a lot of Python. A lot of people do Safe FME, which is a ETL tool that we use for our product a lot. I haven't bothered to learn it because I can do everything in Python, and no one really cares what you do it in. We have quite a few R programmers as well. So my current projects are City of Seattle, San Francisco, Stockton, Sandag, which is a San Diego area of governance. And that's the big one that will be presented for the UN. So I'm full remote with travel. Most of our positions out there are remote. I mean, there's some that are specific to offices, and we have probably 50 different offices around the country. And but most of them are remote or hybrid. And here's some links. So I think the presentation will be provided. So for like the job I'm doing, we have an East one that we're hiring. Now they're looking for someone with court knowledge, because we're getting heavy into court systems and putting that data out available either internally or open data for everyone. And so that job is the top one. If you want to look at all the jobs, it's right down there. You can connect with me by email if you want and ask about some of these, and I can help direct you to the person doing the hiring. And my LinkedIn is on there. Build your LinkedIn network. That really helps too. You'll see a lot more jobs come through, and then it builds your credibility when you have a lot of people on it as well. So I was going to end with any kind of questions, anything anyone wants to ask.
So Paul, if the alumni find anything they're interested, can they ping you to get an internal referral?
Yes. Yep. And so I talked to the HR, and most of the jobs, there'll be Richard Sherman will be the main recruiter. And so I can touch with him anytime.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Cool. Any question? I have one question. Tyler, how do you see your career path from now on after joining Tyler?
Oh, awesome. Awesome question. Yes, we have so many divisions. There's over 5,000 employees, and it touches all kinds of things. I want to get more in the data science area. And so we have an area that really starts specializing in that, helping communities use data science to predict. So one of the areas, like in Sandag, they're doing modeling of traffic and using computer science or data science to predict traffic flows and everything else. And so we're starting to touch on that. And that's one of the areas I'm pretty interested in going next. So there's plenty of potential to grow. They promote from within. The upper jobs we're mostly tried to get from within. And so there's plenty of room to grow in whatever area you want.
That's wonderful to hear.
Yep.
Awesome. So thank you for your time. I'm going to introduce the next speaker, Yasuhiro. I'm going to give you a host so you can start to share your screen and start giving the talk. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Paul.
Yep, I am logging off now.
Thank you, Vivian. First, as we are getting set up here, do I have access to sharing?
Absolutely, you're
yes.
a host now.
Okay, I will share this. Okay. Does everybody see my slideshow? I hope so.
Yep.
Okay, so my name is Yasuhiro Shinohara. I am a operations analyst here at a company called Safa. Safa is a e-commerce mattress company where we sell luxury brand mattresses to a at an affordable, competitive price. Myself personally, I was a cohort graduate for the during January 2020 at the New York City Data Science Academy, and I'd like to just talk a bit about myself, where and how I got to this job as an operations analyst. So before I joined the New York City Data Science Academy, I did my bachelor's in meteorology at SUNY Oneonta, a small town college in New York State. It was focused in meteorology, and it was a STEM course. And in 2019, I completed my Master's of Education at CUNY Hunter in New York City. Upon completing that education field, I worked as a earth science teacher for public schools. And I didn't really have any data science experience, let alone coding experience. What I did have was analytical experience. So I had skills in understanding meteorological trends, from maps to radar, to even just regular tables of temperatures. I was very powerful at doing that. That was pretty much my skill set. With that information, you can forecast. So I was able to create my own weather forecast. I had an opportunity at working at a local TV station as a meteorologist. I didn't actually go on air, but I did help build visual tools. Working as a teacher, I worked on analyzing student behavior as well as lesson design. So where the analysis comes here is not only do I analyze the results of my students via my own work, we also worked with other teachers from not only within our school, but also outside outside the school, within the New York City area, to analyze what methods work, what are the common trends. All these things you can apply in some shape or form towards data analysis into data science. I found my skill set to kind of fit that, and New York City Data Science Academy was able to kind of nurture that growth into pretty much where I am as a data analyst, data scientist, and even towards data engineer. So I did a 3-month bootcamp course studying Python, R, and then machine learning afterwards. After the 3-month bootcamp, what I did was essentially the job hunting grind. But I knew I wasn't prepared yet. So I had a pretty set schedule of what I wanted to do. But there was no way I was able to do it by myself. I made a few cohort friends. So we met up and virtually at the time to have daily review sessions where we would look over different sort of free resources on improving our Python, SQL, regular expression sets. I have a few provided. You can Google some of these; they'll come up very quickly. And I treated the job hunt as a job where you would work on weekdays 9 to 5, a little bit more, a little bit less, depending on the day. And it focused on improving the skill set that I had, reinforcing the skill sets, and as well as expanding skills that I didn't have before. Again, to the previous slide here, I didn't note that I had any experience with pivot tables. I didn't actually have any experience with pivot tables. So after that, I worked on expanding on that. It's a very common and very easy tool that I figured out within a few hours. Tableau as well, similar thing. And I was job hunting for about 4 months until I was hired at SAFA as the operations analyst. So as an operation analyst, my position is to focus on analyzing the post-purchase activities, but includes but not limited to, the delivery logistics. So how the mattress is being delivered, customer satisfaction. That improves at how the mattress being delivered, how the quality of that mattress was, and some of our showrooms. how pretty much the statistics on the success and how customers are likely to purchase based off their experience at our showrooms. Some of the skills, the hard skills I use to kind of apply this is SQL. A lot of SQL is being applied here because we query a lot of our data for forecasting, reporting, monitoring, and we do that via a few tools such as Python and R. I fell into the Python side because of my interest, and I grew my skill set in Python to be able to work and prioritize on that. And Tableau, in terms of visualization, Tableau is just our company-wide visualization program. So it's really easy to just communicate and report the data that we have going on. But really, the skill set that I offer has been communication and planning. The story is that I was a meteorologist, a teacher, and what I did is that I have been presenting information across different platforms. The subjects are different, but really the action is still the same. And I still do that here today, where I would focus on my skill set that I picked up from the New York City Data Science Academy, and apply the current skill set that I have, which is presenting. I frequently and always work with C-suite directors on making sure that they have the data that they need. I work with data engineers to work on improving the data that we have, the data integrity. I work with data analysts, the marketing team, and I work with data scientists to explore new ideas. We're always trying to be different, continue to grow ourselves. And that's the greatest thing about Safa that we have going on. I have provided a careers link on this slide here. Currently, we don't have any positions open in terms of data analysis, data science, and data engineering, but that may change within the next few months because Safa has grown tremendously over the last 3 years. We have grown in size of a 50 employee team to now over 200 people. So that's about 300%. That's incredibly fast growing for our company. And we are always striving for greatness and looking to kind of grow ourselves each day. Some of the last things I want to take away is some of the recommendations in terms of job hunting, things I would tell myself back when I was still finding a job. And if you were listening, or actually, I may have been going over a little bit too quickly, but just to highlight a few things, it's the focus on the subjects you're motivated in. If you're not motivated in it, it's much harder to push that snowball to greatness. If you're interested in machine learning, focus on machine learning. If you're interested in the statistics, focus on the statistics. That being said, each one builds on top of another. So when you want to work in baby steps, aside from that, you also want to leverage the skill set that you had prior to the data science industry. Set yourself apart, because different companies are looking for different people. They have different mindsets in terms of how they want their employee to report and meet their objectives. So make sure you highlight that not only in your resume, but also in your interviews on emphasizing your skill set on what you provide. If you have a PhD in mathematics, emphasize that you're the mathematician in the team. If you're a teacher like I was, you emphasize that you're the communicator in the team, and you want to make sure that communication is very clean. If you're the hard coder, you want to let them know that you're very powerful and very efficient on how you code things. Continuously give feedback, ask questions. You're not alone. You have a team, you will have a network. You want to slowly build your network, and you want to constantly ask yourself to keep growing, identify new things that motivate you. And it goes back to bullet point 1. And then finally, I want to just close off with mental fortitude. if you're job hunting like I was, I focused only on the just job. I was fortunate enough not to be working at the same time. And it's important to take care of yourself. Take breaks. It's good to take breaks. It's also important to have realistic and measurable goals to show that you're growing with time. And then be positive. It's tough right now if you're searching for a new job or you're trying to change careers, but you will eventually find a job that meets your needs. And then stay calm and stay focused. That's pretty much, yeah, that's it for my presentation. Again, my name is Yasuhiro Shinohara. I am the operations analyst at SAFA.
So I'm gonna ask the same question I made to Paul. How do you see your career grow from this point?
That's a good question. I ask that question to myself every day. Right now I'm a data analyst, but I have options to either grow as a data scientist or a lead data analyst. But I have chosen to go towards a data engineering role because something I've noticed is that our company has room for improvement on how our data is being loaded and kind of transformed. Very often, if you want to have great forecasting results, you need to have good data. Otherwise, it's garbage in, garbage out, and you have no business incentives on even making sure that the action you want to take is valuable to the company. And data is everything. We expanded the showrooms with kind of just a gut feeling that it was going to work. But at the time, we didn't have the data for that. Now we do, and it works out great. I can't go into the details of that because it goes against NDAs. But overall, it's how you want to foresee yourself. Right now, I'm still the communicator, where I want to just make sure that everybody has efficient, good data to make correct business decisions. But I'm also working on improving the data that we have so that everybody can have trust in our data.
Sounds wonderful. Any other question from the audience? Okay, great. We're gonna move to Brian. Brian, I'm gonna make you your host next. And thank you so much for making this time.
Oh,
Yasuhiro.
no problem. Can you hear me all right?
Yep, Brian.
Okay. Let me just share my screen very quickly. All right, can you all see my screen?
Yep, it's coming up.
Okay. Right, so let me just no present. Oh wait, how do you just go into presentation mode? I almost never do. Oh, here we go. There we go. All right then. All right, so now I'm going to be going. Oh, before I begin, my name is Brian Perez, and I was an alumni about, wow, feels like almost 2 years ago, since I was last in the academy. But I'll be going over essentially my journey into data science, starting from where I was initially to where I am now. And so going on. Right, so prior to joining the New York City Data Science Academy, I graduated from John Jay College with a degree in molecular biology. And I worked in a clinical research lab at Columbia University for about 2 years, doing a lot of the typical wet lab work, doing biochemical assays, processing biospecimens, and doing all of that typical lab technician routine. However, while I was there, I was sort of also exposed to the growing prevalence of data science, well, more specifically in the biological space, but as I began reading more and more about it, just the greater prevalence of it overall. And I started doing some self-learning with R and some Python here and there, using it for some basic data analysis and some very low-level statistics. And following that, after about 2 years, I wanted to transition from wet lab work and into the growing field of data science. And so I made the decision to, in the summer of 2020, to leave my job and enroll into the boot camp. And so enrolling at NYC, so I enrolled in December 2020. I was part of the BDS, that's part of the 23rd cohort. And we were still very much, December 2020, still very much in the midst of the pandemic. And so it was all remote learning. So engaging with my peers via Zoom and spending basically all day at my laptop via hopping from Zoom meeting to Zoom meeting. And so I completed the boot camp in December 2020. However, the job market at that time was still very much in flux. And also after completing the boot camp, I felt that I still needed to work on some of my skills and also complete through some of the post boot camp work that we have to do with respect to SQL and also all the coding challenges that you have to do as part of the interview process. So I felt that after graduating the boot camp, there were some things that I wanted to still improve upon. And so I actually took some time in between when I graduated and when I actually started formally applying. And I used that time to, similar to what many of you are going through, like going through like these weekly alumni workshop, job preparation workshops, going through HackerRank, going through SQL challenges, coding challenges on LeetCode, reviewing a lot of the material that I learned from the bootcamp, and just really trying to hone in on the skills that I was interested in. And I really didn't start applying for jobs near the end, actually near the end of February, early March. And so going on to the next slide. My scope initially from leaving the bootcamp was to focus on entry-level data scientist or data analyst roles. That's what I wanted to transition into. And so then this process generally involved ramping out resumes and cover letters daily. It started out very slow at first, but then I realized, oh, this is a day-to-day thing. So having to constantly edit, revise my resumes, and sort of start sending out cover letters regularly via LinkedIn, Indeed, any job posting board that was available to me and that had entry-level data scientists is what I was searching or gravitating towards. I also expanded my search to look for paid internship roles. This was mainly because I think there was a presentation from a while back about how one of the ways that, to sort of transition to the data science industry would be one way to actually look at internships as well. So I started expanding my view into that as well. Also, the summer was coming up, so that's a fantastic season for internships as well. And it's also a good way to get more experience. And so I eventually accepted a role as a platform machine learning intern at the company that I work at now, which is Metadata. And one of the main reasons I did this was it has the potential to transition into a full-time role. And so I got accepted for that internship role, and then I transitioned to a full-time data scientist by September of that same year. And so very quick turnaround time overall. Whoops, went up one slide. Let me just escape this very quickly. I think the last slide was essentially just, this last slide. Oh yeah, presentation, yeah. Recommendation being a successful job search. Yeah, apply. I can't recommend this enough. I found out after the fact that, there's so many people applying. It always feels like when you ever get a rejection that it's more of a personal indictment on you, but it's more to do with the fact that there's just such a large volume of people applying for jobs. And so more often than not, it's more so a matter of a numbers game than it is an indication of a personal ability. So I'd say applying nonstop is one of the ways to go, but also like trying to be honest and realistic and being open to the job opportunities around you. Like, what is it that you're interested in? What is actually achievable for you? And having the necessary skills to actually go about pursuing those jobs. I would say that is one of the recommendations I would make in your application process is to apply often and also be honest and open about the job opportunities around you. Knowing your stuff. So if you're interested in a data analysis role, maybe looking at more at some of the specific tools or libraries that might be more relevant to the roles of interest. Like, perhaps there might be some data visualization tools that are more unique to data analysts that might not be as important for, say, data scientists who may need to know more about libraries such as sklearn or TensorFlow or that sort of thing. Yeah, and be prepared to and also be prepared for general and industry specific questions. So there's a wide range of industries. Knowing how to apply your data science knowledge to the industry of interest is going to be very key during your interview process as well. And also take advantage of the resources that are available around you, the alumni network. I know that the bootcamp also offers some technical interview prep, preparing you for interviews as well and doing mock interviews. And also resume assistance. That was also helpful in sort of gearing my old wet lab work resume to a more standard, tech resume. So I would say take advantage of those tools as well. And so I think that's the capsulates, and broadly speaking, that's the the broad strokes view of what I think you might need to make your job successful. And as for, job openings within metadata. So there are 2 entry-level data scientist positions open within our company. These are a bit beyond the scope of my specific team, but they are fairly recent. And actually, I think you can put these in the chat. Let me just exit out of this really quickly so that I can do that. I believe Courtney should have shared these with you, but I'll just post these in the chat as well, just so people have the option to look at them personally. Oh, whoops, wrong one. Control. That's my LinkedIn. That's the actual job posting for one of them. And then for the other, the one in Boston, let me see here. Yeah, so I'll just post these in the chat as well.
Wonderful, Brian. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. And that pretty much concludes my presentation. Any questions on my journey overall or anything more specific about that?
What's your next step, Brian?
Oh, my next step. So what's nice about my company is that they have a general ladder for what is expected of you. So I came in as an entry-level data scientist, and they have roles such as senior data scientist, principal data scientist overall. And they sort of outline what is expected of you. And so I would say for the next 1 to 2 years, I'm more so working on trying to, because there was a bit of a transition, right? Going from the boot camp and working in a formal company setting, right? So getting used to actually writing production level code, knowing the different tools and environments and resources available there as well. And so I would say the immediate next step for me is becoming acquainted with what it's like to sort of produce production level code and actually create machine learning models at a sort of like at a company level, just so that I can get to a point where I have the responsibility of potentially leading projects and leading teams. So that's my goal, I would say, for the next 2 to 3 years, is to get to that level of skill and expertise.
That's awesome. I will see if I can organize any session around how to write industry-rated code.
Yeah, it's a learning process it's an ongoing process for me as well. So yeah, maybe a presentation will be a good way to sort of harden on those skills.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for making time.
Yep, no problem. Let me
Next,
stop sharing my
I'm
screen.
going to introduce Zach.
Hey, everybody. Hey, Vivian, how's it going?
Good.
And great stuff, Brian. I have a lot of similar points, so that's good that we're kind of on the same page on things. Maybe we know what we're talking about. Maybe I don't know.
Maybe we're on maybe we have some expertise.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I'm going to share my screen here and let's see. Get started. And I learned how to start a slideshow also from Brian. Thank you for that. So hello, everybody. Thank you for having me here. I see some familiar faces from the live coding interview workshops that we've done over the past couple of weeks. So great to see you all again. For those that I haven't met before, my name is Zach. I am an alumni of just right before Brian, June 2020, also in the heat of COVID times, totally remote. And I'm currently working as a data scientist at a startup called Unsupervised. So I got a lot of content here. I'm going to talk a little fast. Feel free to rewatch this on half speed. I apologize in advance. But a little bit about myself, my background. I did undergrad in economics and English, creative writing, some left brain, right brain stuff going on there. After that, I did 2.5 years in consulting in the healthcare industry specifically. I liked it. I didn't love it. I wanted some more technical work. I didn't really have any sort of coding or technical work at that role. And I knew that's what I wanted to get into. So I did the boot camp. And again, that was June 2020, spent 6 months as a TA after graduating. And since then, I've been working as a data scientist at this company called Unsupervised. So that's about 1.5 years now. So what is Unsupervised? It's a tech startup, Series A, so still relatively young. Basically, we are all about automatic data analysis, building a software, and we're trying to build a software that does automatic data analysis. So the core of that is an algorithm that will search through all of your data and return the most interesting subsets. If you think of unsupervised machine learning from the lectures during the bootcamp, it's all about finding clusters, right? Finding groups, clusters within the data. This is similar. We just call them subsets or patterns. And we don't quite use normal like sklearn unsupervised machine learning algorithms. It's our own algorithm built in-house, but the concept is the same. You're finding clusters, and then we have a UI, a web app that tells you all sorts of interesting statistics about those clusters. So the idea is, you input all of your data, output all of these interesting subsets about that data. And this is kind of like the data analytics process. You're automatically finding insights that can then be used to inform business decisions. So as a data scientist at Unsupervised, there we go. What is my role? Well, if you can imagine, company has a whole bunch of different data in all kinds of different places. We want to get as much of that into a single data frame to be put into the algorithm. So big part of my job is data engineering. For that, I use pandas, Dask, which is basically, it's distributed pandas. It's a library built on top of pandas, but meant to handle big data and process things in a parallelized way. Super intuitive, actually. It's meant to look and feel just like pandas. So I didn't know anything about it when I got to this job, but it's a cool thing to learn and worth looking into if you're interested in kind of big data engineering stuff. And then we also have some internal tools that we use for data engineering. Once you get the data, how we want it to be, it goes into algorithm, and it is my job to tune that algorithm and also set up the UI. So again, it's not like a k-means clustering unsupervised algorithm. It's something that we built ourselves. But it still has hyperparameters. I still have to tune those, and it's all based on what the customer is interested in and what the customer wants to see. Those are my metrics. My metrics are like, how is this being received by the customer? Is this giving them what they want? And that's how I do all of my tuning. And then the other part of that is in the front end, setting up visualizations that are specific to the kinds of questions that they ask so that they can get the results that they want to see. And then finally, part 3 is customer interaction. On about a weekly or bi-weekly cadence, I meet with each of my customers, show them the results of the algorithm and say, hey, is this actionable? Is this interesting? Is this solving problems for you? Get their feedback and then incorporate that feedback into the process. So that's a little bit about my background and my work that I do at Unsupervised. I want to take a pivot here and talk about the job search and life post bootcamp. So first part of the timeline is during the bootcamp. You're all alumni, don't need to spend too much time talking about that. I'm going to start here on the post bootcamp period, and this is something exactly like what Brian said. So 2 points make a line. Maybe this is a thing. I spent about 2 to 3 months after the bootcamp just studying. I personally did not feel ready to enter the job market. All of this information was very new, and I needed some time to let it sink in and really, really practice, hone my skills, study before I even thought about applying for jobs. What did I do in that time? Did the post-bootcamp study plan, review lectures, make cheat sheets, and then I had daily practice for the technical interviews, really daily practice. I had a daily reminder for 3 separate things. 1, practice SQL, 2, practice Python, and 3, practice some sort of data science concepts. SQL and Python are pretty self-explanatory. HackerRank, Code Wars, LeetCode, anywhere you can find practice problems, I had a daily reminder to work on those, at least 30 minutes or so, however much time I could give. But that's when you really start to sharpen these coding skills and get ready for live coding interviews. The concepts part, what do I mean by that? Well, that's really, that could be anything. That could be any sort of data science concept. And what this is preparing you for is that kind of interview where, well, first of all, it's preparing you because you're cementing these things, and you'll be a better data professional when you have this knowledge really, really locked in your brain. But for the interviews, you'll often have some sort of kind of quiz interview where they ask you questions about data work, or maybe some work that you've done in the past, and they want you to go really in depth. It's all about being able to communicate what you know about data and statistics and that kind of stuff. So when I'm practicing this, it's things like pros and cons of different machine learning algorithms, pros and cons of different error metrics, precision, recall, R squared. What do these things mean, and when would you want to use each? The data science product questions, that PDF from the post bootcamp study plan, super, super helpful in taking these data science concepts and turning them into questions that might be asked, real world scenarios or hypothetical scenarios that could show up in an interview. And the whole point is being able to communicate about them. So as I was doing these like daily review of data science concepts, I wanted to mirror as much as I possibly could what it's actually going to be like in the interview. In the interview, you're going to be talking about these things. So as I'm practicing, I'm literally talking about these things out loud to the wall. Nobody's listening. I'm just sitting there practicing, communicating these concepts. That not only helps it stick in your brain a lot better when you can explain it, but when you get into the interview, it's going to feel familiar. It's something you've done before. So this is all the post bootcamp plan, or post bootcamp period, I should say, 2 to 3 months for me before I even started applying for any jobs. And then at a certain point, I was like, okay, I feel good. I've got this. I'm ready. Let's get into the job search. And the timeline on the job search is however long it takes. I had classmates who got hired in a couple of weeks. I had classmates it took months. For me, it was about a 2 to 3 month period in order to get offers. And that's fine. All of those scenarios on the extremes and everything in between, it's all fine. It's all a process for everybody. I think the point is, it's going to happen. You're going to find a place. You're going to find work. You're going to get into this data industry 100%. It's just a matter of time. So during that job search, a couple tips. One is networking. Maybe it's different now in a semi-cautiously post-COVID world where you can go out and meet people. For me, the most common form of networking was going on LinkedIn, seeing, researching companies that I'm interested in, finding the data analyst or data scientist or data engineer at that company and reaching out and saying, hey, I think the work you do is really interesting. I would love to chat. Or finding people who have a similar background to me and same thing. Hey, I think we have a similar background. I would love to hear I'd love to chat. I would love to hear how you got where you are. And what I'll say about this is networking often has this kind of almost a negative stigma, because a lot of people approach it in a very transactional way. I do this 10-minute phone call with this person, and in return, I receive a referral or something like that. And that's never how I really saw it. I saw it as an opportunity, and still do, like this is an ongoing thing. I see it as an opportunity to learn from people, hear their story, maybe get some tips and advice on how that could map to mine, learn about interesting things going on in the industry. We only have one small view until we start to broaden that view on different things that are going on. So opportunities to learn about all kinds of stuff. And then of course, also to meet a person, and that's always a good thing to do. And then after all that, maybe something actually tangible comes from it in terms of a referral or a reference or a connection to somebody else who might be able to do something for me. But that's all secondary, because you never really know when that's going to happen. You never know if they're going to come through on a referral. You never know if the referral is going to mean anything. You never know if 5 years down the line, they're going to have a startup that's super interesting and they're going to remember this conversation and say, hey, maybe I should reach out to that person and see if they want to get involved. You really never know what's going to come of it. So I love approaching networking in a way of just, have a conversation with someone, learn from them, and maybe something extra comes of it. You never know. You never really know. And that takes me into the next tip about applications. Similar to what Brian said, apply. Just always apply, because you never know. When in doubt, just apply. I've had people reach out to me and say, hey, do you think I'm qualified for this role? Because I check these boxes, but this isn't quite where I'm at. And I'm like, I don't know. That's their decision. That's their decision. I've had opportunities that ask for master's degrees and things like that, and I just apply anyways because I think that's dumb. And you get an interview, and then you get far in the interview, and then you might get the offer. That's not my specific story, but I did get interviews at places that were asking for master's degrees and things like that. And then you get great experience. The point is, you never know, always apply, just give it a shot. Next, talking a little bit about cover letters and resumes. I like to customize these a little bit, as much as I possibly can, without having to write a new one for every single job. For resumes, I had 2 or 3 different resumes that highlighted different things. So I had one that talked more about my consulting experience, one that talked more about my passion for environmental work, that kind of stuff. And I would send off whichever one I thought matched best to that specific role. And then for cover letters, similarly, you can have a few different templates that highlight a few different things. But something that I really always like to do is have this customized section right in the middle of the cover letter, where I say, and this is like direct quote, it's in my cover letters, in your job application or in the job description, you mentioned the need for blank, and then literally copy something out of the job description and paste it directly into the cover letter. You mentioned the need for communication across multiple departments, and then spend the next 2 to 3 sentences talking about how you fill that need. If I'm a hiring manager and I'm scanning through cover letters, I literally see my own words in the cover letter. And this means that 1, the person took the time to read through and really try and connect with the cover letter or with the job description. 2, they found something that resonated with them. And 3, they have specific things that they feel make them qualified to fill that need. So nice little trick, doesn't take up that much time, and you could do it for every single cover letter. And then finally, have a go-to project that you're ready to talk about in detail. I almost guarantee you're going to get the following question. Tell me about an interesting project you've worked on. Period. And that's it. And then you just talk. Then you just talk about an interesting project that you've worked on. For me, this was my capstone project, and I was able to, I talked about my capstone project 7 or 8 times in my whole interview process. And this was, having this ready to go, like having the story ready to go for that question, meant I could talk about the scope of the problem that we were trying to solve, the major challenges that we faced, how we overcame these challenges, and what were the results. And often good is what's next, like what would you want to do next that you maybe didn't have time for. Having that story ready to go, you can apply that to many, many interviews. So it's good to be able to talk about that in detail. Let me check on time real quick. Cool, we're looking good. Last slide, and then I'll save a minute or 2 for questions. Like I said, job search, it's going to happen. There is a post-job search period where you are working in your role in the data world. You're living that life. You have a life in the data world. And in that role, you are going to use very specific skills to solve very specific problems. You're going to get really, really good at those skills, whatever it is, SQL, Python, data engineering, machine learning, ops, whatever it is, you're going to get really good at those skills. And my advice is for the first few months, focus on that, get really good at those skills, be good at that job, grow and progress, but then come back to this. The data world is huge. It is bigger than those specific skills that you're doing in your one specific job. When you're ready for it, come back to the idea of always, always, always keep learning, because this world is big and always changing. So new data concepts and skills, new tools and technologies, soft skills like management and communication, if that's something that you see in your future, those are skills, actual skills that you can practice that would be super, super valuable. So this is one just about, staying relevant, but also staying interested and finding the specific space in the data world that is perfect for you and what you want to do. So that is all. Thank you all so much for the time. Best of luck. I think I've made it in time for a couple questions. So yeah, if anyone has any, feel free.
Feel free to ask any questions.
And I will say also, excuse me, if you have any questions that you want to ask offline, you can find me on Slack or LinkedIn as well. And feel free to reach out. I'm happy to chat.
If a student find good fit, can they ping you for internal referral?
Yes, and I will say, feel free to reach out to me first and like have a conversation about it. I'm happy to chat about what the role means and what we're looking for and some tips for the interview process as well.
Wonderful. Okay. Thank you so much for your time, Zach. It's so super fun to see what you have been through. Even I witnessed 100% all of them, but still refreshing to see a summarized overview.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Thank you so much for the time.
Okay, great. Hope everyone have a good rest of your day. We'll be in touch. Bye-bye.
Bye.